What would you do if a judge laughed at you in court, thinking you were nobody? Hey, story lovers! Welcome to Bella Stories, where I share the most fascinating tales to your screen. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe and turn on that notification bell. That way, you'll never miss out on any of my stories. The courtroom was packed. People whispered as the case started. At the front, Judge Thompson sat high on his bench, his robe perfectly pressed, his face wearing a smug smile. He looked down at the defendant, a young black woman standing confidently beside her lawyer. Her name was Maya Johnson. She wore a simple black suit, her curly hair pulled back neatly, and her eyes were sharp, focused. The prosecutor, Mr. Barnes, began his opening statement. Your Honor, this is an open and shut case. Miss Johnson was caught at the scene. There's no question of her guilt. He walked confidently across the floor, pointing at Maya. She was trespassing on private property with no good reason. What was she even doing there? Maya's lawyer, Tom Reynolds, stood up. Your Honor, my client has the right to explain herself. We asked the court to hear her side of the story. Judge Thompson leaned back in his chair, a mocking smile on his face. Oh, I can't wait to hear this. He chuckled, shaking his head. What could she possibly say to get out of this one? His laughter echoed through the courtroom, and a few people in the audience snickered. Maya stayed calm, her face unreadable. But her hands tightened into fists at her sides. Tom put a hand on her shoulder, whispering, "Stay calm. We'll get through this." "Go on, Miss Johnson," the judge said, wiping a tear from his eye from laughing. "Entertain us." Maya stepped forward, her heels clicking against the wooden floor. She looked right at Judge Thompson. Your Honor, I was on that property because I was doing my job. The judge raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. Your job? And what job would that be? Breaking and entering? More laughter followed. Maya didn't blink. No, sir. I was there because I was protecting someone very important. Judge Thompson leaned forward, his interest slightly piqued. Protecting someone? And who might that be? Maya's eyes never wavered. I was protecting the Vice President of the United States. The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. The judge's smile faltered, just for a moment, before he burst into laughter again. The Vice President? Protecting? You? He pointed at her as if it were the most ridiculous thing he'd ever heard. Now I've heard everything. Maya's jaw tightened, but she kept her composure. Yes, Your Honor. I'm a special agent with the United States Secret Service. The courtroom exploded in noise. People whispered, some gasped. Judge Thompson's face turned red from laughing so hard. He wiped his eyes, struggling to breathe. A Secret Service agent? You? He looked her up and down, his eyes full of disbelief. Are we being pranked? Where are the cameras? Maya's lawyer tried to intervene. Your Honor, my client has proof of her identity. The judge waved him off. Proof? Oh, I'd love to see that. He leaned back, crossing his arms. This should be good. Maya calmly reached into her pocket, her movements slow and controlled. She pulled out a black leather badge holder and flipped it open. There, shining under the courtroom lights, was her official United States Secret Service badge. The gold eagle gleamed, the letters, U.S. Secret Service, boldly etched into the metal. Judge Thompson's face went pale. His mouth hung open as he stared at the badge. The room fell into complete silence once more. No one moved. No one spoke. Maya's voice was steady and firm. Your Honor, I was on that property because I was doing my duty as a Secret Service agent. I was there to protect the Vice President during a private event. My presence was not only justified, it was required. The judge's hands trembled as he gripped his gavel, his knuckles white. He looked at Maya, then at her badge, then back at Maya. His lips moved, but no words came out. Maya took a step closer. "I suggest you reconsider your attitude, Your Honor. Laughing at a federal agent in court might not look so good on record." The judge's eyes widened. His gavel slipped from his hand and clattered onto his desk. The sound echoed through the silent courtroom. His face was ghostly white. But before he could say anything, the doors of the courtroom burst open. 4 men in black suits and earpieces rushed in, their faces hard and serious. They scanned the room quickly before locking their eyes on Maya. One of them spoke in a low, commanding voice, "Agent Johnson, we need to leave. Now." Maya's face turned serious. She nodded and looked back at the judge, who was frozen in shock. "This case isn't over," she said, her voice low and firm. "But I have more important matters to attend to." She turned on her heel, her head held high as she walked towards the door, the agents forming a protective circle around her. The crowd parted, watching in stunned silence. Judge Thompson sat motionless, his face drained of all color. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. He looked down at his hands, still shaking. What just happened? As the doors closed behind Maya and the agents, the judge's gavel rolled off his desk and hit the floor with a loud thud. Everything he thought he knew about this case had just been shattered. Who was Maya Johnson, and how did she end up in court facing a judge who never saw this coming? 2 days earlier, Maya stood outside a grand mansion in Washington, D.C. Her eyes scanned the area, taking in every detail. Her earpiece crackled to life. "Agent Johnson, do you have a visual?" She pressed a finger to her ear. "Yes. All clear on my end." The vice president was attending a private fundraising event inside. Maya's job was to secure the perimeter. As a special agent with the U.S. Secret Service, she took her duty seriously. Nothing got past her. Suddenly, she noticed movement by the side gate. A man in dark clothing was crouching near the fence, his eyes darting around. Maya's heart rate quickened. Possible intruder on the east side. "I'm moving in." She moved swiftly but quietly, staying low as she approached. The man was fiddling with the gate's lock. Maya's hand went to her weapon, but she stayed calm. She needed to catch him by surprise. Just as she was about to call out, the man broke the lock and slipped inside. Maya moved fast, her steps silent as she followed him onto the property. He headed toward the back of the mansion, sticking close to the shadows. Maya's voice was firm as she spoke into her earpiece. "Intruder is inside the perimeter. I'm in pursuit." She rounded the corner just in time to see the man pull out a small device and press it against a window. There was a faint click, and the window slid open. He was breaking in. Maya acted fast. "Stop. Secret Service." The man spun around, his eyes wide with shock. But he was quick. He bolted, running towards the woods behind the mansion. Maya chased after him, her feet pounding the grass. Suspect fleeing east. Requesting backup. She was fast, but he was faster. He reached the fence and began climbing. Maya didn't hesitate. She followed, scaling the fence with ease. They landed on the other side, the man stumbling before taking off again. Maya pushed herself harder, her training kicking in. She closed the gap, reaching out just as he tried to jump over a fallen tree. Her hand grabbed his ankle, yanking him down. They hit the ground hard, wrestling as he tried to break free. He threw a punch, but Maya blocked it, twisting his arm behind his back. He yelled in pain, his face pressed against the dirt. "You're not going anywhere," Maya said, her voice cold and steady. Backup arrived moments later, 2 agents cuffing the intruder and leading him away. One of them, Agent Parker, looked at Maya with admiration. "Nice work, Johnson. Fast as always." Maya dusted herself off, her breathing steady. "Just doing my job." But as she watched the intruder being taken away, something didn't sit right. Why was he there? Who was he working for? The next day, Maya was called into her supervisor's office. Director Reynolds sat behind his desk, his face serious. We ran the intruder's fingerprints. He's linked to a group under investigation for planning attacks on political figures. Maya's stomach tightened. Was the vice president the target? It's possible. We're still gathering intel. But there's another problem. He handed her a folder. The owner of the property is pressing charges against you. Maya's eyes widened. Against me? For what? Trespassing. He claims you had no right to be there. Maya couldn't believe it. I was doing my job. Protecting the vice president. Director Reynolds sighed. The event was private. No official Secret Service detail was requested. Technically, you were off duty. And since you were acting alone. Maya's mind raced. So he's using that against me? He's claiming you broke onto his property without permission. The court hearing is tomorrow. Maya's heart sank. This doesn't make sense. He should be grateful I stopped a threat. Why is he doing this? Director Reynolds leaned back, his eyes narrowing. That's what I want you to find out. But for now, you'll have to defend yourself in court. And you can't reveal classified details about the investigation. Maya's fists clenched. This was a setup. She could feel it. But she had no choice. She would have to face the judge and prove her innocence, without revealing the real reason she was there. The next morning, Maya walked into the courtroom, her head held high. She knew this wasn't going to be easy, but she was ready. Her lawyer, Tom Reynolds, stood beside her, his face serious. We'll get through this, Maya. Just stick to the facts. Maya nodded, her eyes sharp. I just want justice. But when she looked up at the judge's bench and saw Judge Thompson laughing, her stomach turned. He didn't see her as a federal agent. He saw her as nothing more than an intruder. The judge's laughter echoed in her mind as he mocked her story. Protecting the vice president? You? Maya's jaw tightened. She was more than ready to prove him wrong. But she knew the truth wouldn't be enough. She had to show him exactly who she was. As she reached into her pocket and pulled out her badge, she watched the judge's face change. His laughter stopped. His eyes widened. But before she could enjoy the look of shock on his face, the courtroom doors burst open. The Secret Service agents rushed in, urgency written all over their faces. Maya's heart skipped a beat. What was going on? Agent Johnson, we need to leave. Now. Maya turned to her lawyer. Tom, stay here. I'll be back. He looked worried. Maya, what's happening? She didn't answer. She didn't have time. She followed the agents out of the courtroom, her mind racing. What could be so important that they had to interrupt a court case? As the doors closed behind her, she glanced back at Judge Thompson. He was still frozen in shock, his face pale. But she couldn't worry about him now. Something big was happening. And she was about to find out what. What was so urgent that it pulled Maya out of court? And how did it connect to the intruder she stopped days before? Maya followed the agents down the hallway, her heart racing. They moved quickly, their faces tense. Something was wrong. Very wrong. They reached a black SUV waiting outside. Agent Parker was in the driver's seat, his jaw clenched. Get in. We don't have much time. Maya climbed into the back, her mind spinning. What's going on? Agent Parker's eyes met hers through the rearview mirror. There's been a security breach. The vice president's life is in danger. Maya's blood ran cold. What? How? That man you caught? He wasn't working alone. We just found out his group planted a device at the event. We didn't find it before, because it's still there. Maya's heart pounded. They're targeting the vice president, now? Parker nodded, his grip tight on the steering wheel. The event's ending soon. If we don't get there in time. Maya didn't need to hear the rest. She knew exactly what was at stake. Step on it. The SUV sped through the streets, sirens blaring. Maya's mind raced. The pieces were falling into place. The man wasn't just breaking in. He was planting something. And whoever sent him was powerful enough to press charges against her to keep her distracted. This was bigger than she thought. Much bigger. They reached the mansion, the same place where she'd stopped the intruder days before. But this time, it was swarming with Secret Service agents. Barricades were up, and people were being rushed out of the building. Maya jumped out of the SUV, her instincts kicking in. Where's the vice president? Still inside. They're sweeping the area now, Parker said, his face pale. Maya's eyes narrowed. I'm going in. Parker grabbed her arm. It's dangerous. We don't know where the device is. That's why I need to go. I saw him. I followed his path. I might be the only one who can find it. Parker hesitated, then let go. Be careful. Maya didn't waste a second. She raced inside, her eyes scanning every corner. She replayed the chase in her mind, remembering every step the intruder took. He went through the side gate, past the garden, and toward the back window. She ran through the halls, dodging agents and staff who were evacuating. Her heart pounded as she reached the room. It was quiet. Too quiet. Maya moved slowly, her eyes sharp. Then she saw it, a small black box hidden under the table. Wires stuck out, leading to a blinking light. Her breath caught. It was a bomb. Her earpiece crackled. Agent Johnson, do you copy? The vice president is on his way out. What's your status? Maya's voice was calm but firm. I found the device. I'm sending pictures to the bomb squad now. She snapped photos, her hands steady despite the fear bubbling inside. She'd faced danger before, but this was different. One wrong move, and everything would be over. The bomb squad's voice came through her earpiece. We see it. It's a timed explosive. You've got less than 5 minutes. Maya's eyes widened. 5 minutes? How do I disarm it? There's a red wire and a blue wire. Cut the red one first. But be careful. If you cut the wrong wire. Maya didn't need them to finish. Her fingers moved quickly, finding the red wire. Her pulse raced as she held her knife over it. She took a deep breath and cut. The light flickered. She froze, waiting, but nothing happened. She exhaled. Good. Now the blue one. But do it slowly. Maya's hands were steady, her focus razor sharp. She carefully cut the blue wire. The blinking light stopped. The room was silent. She let out a shaky breath. It's disarmed. The relief was short-lived. Her earpiece crackled again. There's a second device. It's closer to the main hall. Maya's heart dropped. Where the vice president is? Yes. And you've got less than 2 minutes. Maya didn't wait. She bolted out of the room, her legs pumping as she raced toward the main hall. She heard voices, the vice president's team getting ready to leave. They didn't know. They had no idea. She burst into the hall, her voice echoing. Everyone out. Now. People turned, confusion on their faces. But Maya's tone left no room for questions. Go. It's not safe. Agents sprang into action, rushing the vice president out the nearest exit. Maya's eyes scanned the room, searching. Where was it? Where did they hide it? Then she saw it. A small device tucked behind the podium. The red light blinked faster and faster. She ran to it, her mind racing. She didn't have time to call the bomb squad. She'd have to do it herself. Maya dropped to her knees, examining the wires. There were 3 this time, red, blue, and yellow. Which one? Her earpiece crackled. 30 seconds. Maya's pulse thundered in her ears. She thought back to the first device. Red and blue. But what about yellow? What did it mean? She couldn't hesitate. She grabbed the yellow wire and held her breath. Her knife hovered over it. 20 seconds. She cut it. The blinking stopped. The room was silent. Maya felt her knees go weak. She did it. She actually did it. Her earpiece came to life. The threat is neutralized. Good work, Agent Johnson. Maya sank to the floor, her body shaking with relief. But as she looked around the empty hall, she knew this wasn't over. Someone planned this. Someone powerful. And they wanted her out of the way for a reason. Later that day, Maya returned to the courtroom. She walked in, her head held high, her badge gleaming. Judge Thompson's face went pale as she stood before him. "I believe you were questioning my authority," Maya said, her voice steady. "Allow me to clarify. I am Agent Maya Johnson, U.S. Secret Service. And I was protecting the Vice President of the United States." The courtroom was silent. The judge's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. He looked at her badge, then at her face, realization dawning. He had mocked the wrong person. Maya's eyes were cold. "Now, about those charges." Judge Thompson swallowed hard. "See case dismissed." Maya turned on her heel, walking out of the courtroom without another word. She had bigger things to deal with. As she stepped outside, Agent Parker was waiting. "We traced the intruder's contacts. They lead to someone high up. Someone who wanted you distracted." Maya's jaw tightened. "Who?" Parker's eyes were grim. "A judge." Maya's heart went cold. "Thompson?" Parker nodded. "He's involved. And he's not working alone." Maya looked back at the courthouse, her eyes narrowing. This was far from over. And she was going to find out exactly who was behind it. She slipped her badge back into her pocket, her determination burning brighter than ever. They tried to take her down, but they didn't realize who they were dealing with. Maya Johnson wasn't just any agent. She was the best. And she was just getting started. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button, and subscribe if you haven't already. There are so many more amazing stories coming your way, and we can't wait to share them with you. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep exploring, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.